Whenever you learn a new skill or technique, there's usually more to learn when it comes to it. You usually don't become perfect at that skill right away. Almost always, there will be something more for you to learn, and you can continuously keep improving on that skill. In Dragon Ball, it's not really any different. When a character learns a new technique, a new form, or whatever you want, they're obviously not going to be perfect at using it right away. But after some time in practice, they can improve it, sometimes making their ability much better than it was when they first unlocked it. Today, we'll specifically be discussing the mastery of certain techniques and transformations, and which forms in the series have a mastered version, as well as what these mastered forms entail. We'll also be looking into some of the hypothetical questions about form mastery in terms of other forms, and how it could make older forms a lot more useful. Let's get into it. In terms of the most basic mastered form, let's go all the way back to the Cell Saga. In the previous arc on Namek, we were first introduced to Super Saiyan. However, a lot of the Cell Saga not only focus on the characters trying to unlock Super Saiyan, but also trying to improve that form and go further beyond it. In particular, we actually saw a few variations and improvements on the form, specifically Super Saiyan grades 2, 3, and 4, as well as Super Saiyan 2. Besides Super Saiyan 2, I would argue that the most important discovery in this arc is actually Super Saiyan grade 4. Not to be confused with Super Saiyan 4, that's something completely different. So to avoid the numbering confusion, we'll just refer to it as Master or Perfected Super Saiyan. Technically, it could also be referred to as Full Power Super Saiyan, but I'm going to avoid that name just because it also refers to Broly's green-haired form in Dragon Ball Super Broly, which often gets confused with Legendary Super Saiyan. Yeah, Dragon Ball doesn't really have the most straightforward naming scheme for forms. So in order to avoid any confusion, we're just going to say Perfect or Mastered in this video. So yeah, before I go off on any tangent, let's actually get back to the topic on hand. Mastered Super Saiyan was discovered by Goku in the Cell Saga, and it pretty much was the wall that was needed to be passed before they could ascend any further into the realm of Super Saiyan 2. And why is that? Well, it's in the name. The form is the mastered version of Super Saiyan, where the user has complete control over the form. Before, when transforming into Super Saiyan, people like Goku at first had to put in an immense amount of power to actually transform into it, as well as maintaining the form itself and trying to keep that control. By attaining this state, however, the user is able to remain in their Super Saiyan state seemingly with no stress or strain at all. They're completely relaxed and they can maintain the transformation almost as if they're doing it without thinking and as if it's second nature. This is a pretty big deal, as it means the user can preserve a lot of stamina and focus and put that towards their battles, rather than that energy being expended on the form itself. On top of that, it retains stamina by making the form a lot more efficient overall, and it's in the name Full Power. It uses Super Saiyan at its highest level of power output that it can provide, alongside it being insanely efficient when compared to using the novice version of the form, Super Saiyan grade 1. This combination of traits makes for a very powerful warrior, and it helps greatly in a fight. This form remains important throughout the rest of the series as well, because eventually, all the others who were practicing Super Saiyan eventually were able to achieve this higher level of power, and of course, they use it over their original Super Saiyan grade 1. Whenever you see Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, or whoever in Super Saiyan 1, they'll most likely be using this phase of power, as long as they're not new to the form. We obviously have 2 more tiers beyond that, Super Saiyan 2 and 3. And that leads me into one of the prompts I wanted to bring for this video. If Super Saiyan 1 could be mastered, can these 2 forms be mastered as well? This is a hypothetical question I've seen brought up before, and it gets me thinking too. Considering how Super Saiyan 2 is basically just a step above Super Saiyan, it wouldn't really be crazy to assume that it might be able to be mastered. I mean, for all we know, it could already be mastered and we just don't have confirmation about it. Or more likely scenario, Toriyama just pushed Super Saiyan 2 to the side and basically forgot about it. That's obviously not true, so joking aside, I feel like it would be likely for this to occur, and I honestly feel like it would be a great way to reinvigorate the form. If Super Saiyan 2 could be trained to be as efficient as Super Saiyan grade 4, that would make the form a lot more prominent and useful. As for Super Saiyan 3 though, well, it's really hard to say. Personally, I'd like for this form to have a mastered variant. It would make the transformation much more useful overall. As of now, it's very strong, yet very draining in terms of stamina, and if it were to be mastered somehow, then maybe that flaw could be countered. However, unlike Super Saiyan 1 or 2, one of the fundamental things we were told about Super Saiyan 3 is how draining it is on stamina due to the immense strength of it, which is why I don't see it happening. Plus, with the introduction of all the new Super Saiyan forms in Dragon Ball Super, that sadly means we may not be seeing much of Super Saiyan 2 and 3 in the future at all, even if they were to be mastered. That gives me a perfect segue into the next part of the video, where we discuss different God forms. During Dragon Ball Super, specifically Battle of Gods, the first new form we were introduced to is Super Saiyan God. And over the time it's been around, Goku and Vegeta were able to train well enough to access the form at will, and even trying to master it somewhat. With all the training they've done, they've made the form a lot more efficient in terms of stamina drain. And while Super Saiyan 1 had different grades that even look different, Super Saiyan God hasn't changed that much, so it's kinda hard to say what really happened. But from what we've been told alone, it seems kinda like they have mastered it somewhat, at least to a certain degree. It seems they can control the form almost effortlessly, and even though it may be weaker than Super Saiyan Blue, they still utilize it a lot during battle. The main thing I'm referencing here is how Goku and Vegeta usually try and use this new technique of switching from Super Saiyan God to Blue during battle. Which may seem kinda weird, but once you go into it, it makes a lot of sense and is actually pretty genius. This was seen in both the manga and the anime, where Vegeta or Goku would rush towards an opponent while in Super Saiyan God at their max speed, and then in a split second, they transform into Super Saiyan Blue and attack at full power. And this led to some confusion online that I've seen, and some people seem to think that this means Super Saiyan God is faster than Blue, and that's not the case at all. Super Saiyan Blue is superior in every way in terms of power. However, Super Saiyan God is a lot more lenient on stamina. With all the training and practice Goku and Vegeta have had in this form, it appears that they're able to use this form at max power, seemingly without worrying about it draining their stamina too much, while with Super Saiyan Blue, that's not really seen too much, at least not on the anime, which I'll get into in a bit. Using this technique of switching from God to Blue actually is able to preserve stamina for them. While in God, they can use their maximum speed and power output traveling towards the opponent. And this conserves stamina rather than traveling towards the opponent in Super Saiyan Blue, and then at the very last second, they actually transform into Blue and then attack at the full power of Blue. It's a very smart technique by them, and it helps them preserve a lot of stamina during battle. This efficient use of the form might mean they're actually close to mastering the form, if they haven't already. But Super Saiyan God isn't where it ends. The step above that, Super Saiyan Blue, even that one has its own perfected or mastered version. This is manga exclusive only, we haven't seen this in the anime at all as far as we know. But it's definitely worth bringing up because the canon of Dragon Ball Super is a little weird with the manga and anime, so I'm not going to get into that here. However, this is a prominent new development in Super Saiyan Blue that happens in the manga. By containing the aura of Super Saiyan Blue and controlling all the power flowing out of them, they're actually able to use Super Saiyan Blue at its full power output. It is a very risky technique, and it does take a lot of control and practice. However, Goku and Vegeta are both able to use it, and it actually has a lot of payoff. Using this full version of Super Saiyan Blue allows them to use the form at its full potential, and instead of any of the energy being radiated away by their aura, they contain that all in them and use it towards fighting. In the Goku Black arc, Goku is the first one to actually discover and show this off, while Vegeta on the other hand gets it later on, and both of them seem to have grown pretty accustomed to it right now. This perfected or mastered version of Super Saiyan Blue is kinda akin to Super Saiyan Grade 4 that I mentioned earlier, in regards to the fact that it uses the form at its full power output. This is one of the most recent forms we've seen them master, and in the future, maybe they'll be able to master more, or even some other techniques. And that leads me into the last part of the video which I want to discuss, about Ultra Instinct. I want to clear up a bit of a misconception that I've seen a lot of in the community. A lot of times when people refer to Goku in his white-haired Ultra Instinct form, people refer to it as Mastered Ultra Instinct. But the thing is, it's not really mastered. One of the episode titles refers to it as this, and Beerus even calls it the Complete Ultra Instinct, which is actually a more accurate name when you think about it. But once you actually discuss it, it becomes clear that this form really isn't mastered. True Mastered Ultra Instinct is something that I'd use to describe the Angels, since they are constantly using the technique without even exerting themselves or trying. They're basically able to do it subconsciously without trying at all, and that really sounds like something that's mastered. Goku, on the other hand, he's only really tapped into it so far. The Ultra Instinct that he is using is indeed Ultra Instinct. Everything about it is exactly what anyone would have expected, but calling it mastered doesn't really seem too accurate. Consider all the things I discussed earlier in this video about the other mastered forms and how they differ, using a form or technique at its full power without even needing to try or worrying about stamina drain and being able to use it at will. None of those apply to Ultra Instinct for Goku. He can't use it at will or activate it whenever he needs. And even when he does activate it, the stamina drain is immense. You saw his fight with Jiren. He was a little bit worn out beforehand, but using the form almost seemed fatal to him. One of the more accurate descriptions that I see for this form comes from the video games, where they referred to the black-haired version of it as Omen, and they referred to the white-haired version of it just as Ultra Instinct. And this is a much better and more accurate way to label the forms. It's a pretty minor thing, but I did want to bring it up because the naming doesn't really sound too accurate to me, and it isn't really correct either. You can't really call something mastered if it's something that Goku can't even use at will, or effortlessly perform. So now, I want to hear from you guys. What forms do you think will be mastered in the future, and which one would you like to see? Like I always say, it is a discussion video, so let's start a discussion in the comments. Leave your thoughts below and let's start getting some discussions going. Anyways, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, and if you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel, as well as hitting the bell icons to get notified about any future uploads on this channel, including videos like this one. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.